Despite the dominance of Cloud9 in our spring split and the 4 straight titles that Team Liquid won prior to that, in the franchising era, so that's starting in spring of 2018, we've continued to see parity in the league. We've had 11 teams in the league since franchising started, 13 if you count the 2 brand changes with Optic and Immortals and Clutch Gaming and Dignitas. But of those 11 teams, all of them have made the playoffs at least once, and 9 out of the 11 have been involved in a finals weekend, including either the third, fourth place match in the past, or this split's first ever finals qualifier match, which was Evil Geniuses and FlyQuest. For the first time for the LCS, our finals and playoffs were broadcast on ESPN2 and the ESPN app. And despite all of the upgrades to the LCS arena, we had to make some changes in our COVID world and found new ways to remain connected to our fans and our community, including our virtual tailgate and a very unforgettable virtual after party. Last split, we also made some changes and reintroduced a 3-day match schedule. So the prior schedule, we went Saturday, Sunday, and we had 2 LCS games that were being played on Mondays. As we've announced, after some careful consideration, we are moving those matches from Monday to Friday. So Monday Night League, now on Fridays. And we're doing that in an effort to do a couple of things. So one, we want to set the stage for the weekend, set the narrative off right, and kick it off with a fun and party-like vibe. I think we started to differentiate the brand of our normal weekend broadcast and Monday Night League last split. I think you'll continue to see that differentiation as we move forward throughout Summer Split 2020. I think this change to Friday is also going to help us better accommodate our East Coast and European audiences. It also is going to put us in a position to be able to replay those games on Saturday morning for the EU audience before the LEC kicks off. And I think it's also going to provide our teams with flexibility on the front end of each week in order to help set up their practice schedules for the week. Our debut Friday Night League, which is kicking off in just a couple of days, will feature 100 Thieves against Evil Geniuses, followed by a spring finals rematch of Cloud9 and FlyQuest. As a result of our LCS moves, we're also going to shift around our academy schedule a little bit. So we'll have 5 academy games being played one after the other on Thursday, and then our Friday afternoons, we'll see the other 5 academy games being played through the Academy Rush style. So we're bringing Academy Rush back. It will be a precursor to the LCS Friday Night League matches. And in that way, we're hoping to continue to bring really great curated storytelling to all of our fans around the Academy League. And we'll continue to make all of those streams available through our LCS teams for fans that are interested in just watching one of the Academy games while they're live. In the spring, we also welcomed a number of new league partners, including Huya as our Chinese broadcast partner, and Bud Light as the LCS's first official beer, as well as our expanded relationship with Nielsen, and several other new relationships and integrations, including the areas around the studio that I mentioned a few minutes ago, and cool activations like the Player of the Week statues brought to you by MasterCard, which put 3D printed statues of the MasterCard Player of the Week in the hands of both the winning pro player and some lucky fans. We're excited to build on that involvement this summer with our in-game banners and drops, both of which we announced over the last couple of weeks. These new digital offerings will allow our partners to integrate their brands directly into our esports broadcast for the very first time. Later this week, so I guess this is an announcement of an announcement, we'll be announcing 2 new major partnerships that will kick off this split and help elevate the fan experience, including through a new broadcast segment and a new technology that we're investing in across the LCS. On top of that, we'll be announcing 2 major broadcast upgrades, which will appear with the debut of the summer split this Friday. The goal for these upgrades will be to make our broadcast more dynamic, even in our continued remote setup, and create a more user-friendly viewing experience. These changes, coupled with what can only be described as a memorable free agency period, will help make for a truly exciting summer for a community that has stayed with us split to split as well as viewers that are brand new to the LCS. I think the downtime has been the downtime, meaning the time that we have not been able to be on site in the LCS arena, has been a challenge for the league and for teams and for pro players and for fans. It's hard to kind of feel that connection sometimes when we're all kind of stuck so far apart from each other. So we're excited to continue to hopefully bring a lot of entertainment and joy and great competition to everybody. We look forward to the months ahead and discovering who will be crowned the LCS champion in early September. And at this point, I am happy to open things up to questions.
Great, thanks, Chris. And I was too shy to turn my camera on, but you're welcome to if you would like to. But we'll open up now for everyone to raise their hand for questions. If you're on your computer, it looks like everyone is, but you can click the raise your hand button. And so I'll go through the list and unmute everyone in the order of who raised their hand first. So I just ask, please, everyone to keep it to one question at a time, trying to make sure everyone gets a chance to ask. So we'll start with Azento from Esports Heaven, and I'll unmute you now.
Can you guys hear me?
Ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. So I have a question about the ESPN deal. Now, does that mean that I guess teams are getting a slice of this media rights move?
So I won't speak about the deal specifically, but I can absolutely talk generally about our media rights deals. So under our team participation agreements with the LCS teams, all media rights money is split through our revenue share program. So to the extent we sign a contract with Twitch or YouTube or ESPN or anyone out there that involves the league receiving cash, that cash would be shared with our teams.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, next we have Sage from Unicorn. Sage, you can go ahead.
Could you move forward with the next person? Actually, I'm just configuring Zoom. Thank you.
No worries. Okay, we'll move on to Travis. Travis, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Sure.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know if you guys were able to comment at all on the departure of Avali May from the broadcast.
So I think Avali's going to be moving over and doing a bunch of content both on her own and with us. Our LCS publishing team is super excited about being able to produce more of the content that Avali's been really awesome at, like from the MSI content she did with Team Liquid all the way through the hype videos she was doing for us last split. So, you know, she won't be a stranger to our channels, to our broadcast. I think we'll still see a lot of that content popping up on a week-to-week basis. So that's certainly, I think, the expectation on both sides.
Great, thanks, Travis. Okay, we'll move on to Scalia. You can go ahead.
Callie Sloan, Checkpoint XP. I just wanted to ask, you saw in the spring, as you mentioned, the first time having a losers bracket in the playoffs, and I'm curious with seeing the repeat match between FlyQuest and Cloud9, how's everyone feeling about the new format for the playoffs? Do you intend to stick with it going forward? Is everyone feeling good about it, or are there thoughts on improvement?
I mean, we're always looking for improvements, but I think we're all, you know, on this specific question, we feel pretty good about the way the playoffs turned out. You know, our format is slightly different from the LEC format, but you know, the LEC has seen a rematch in most of their splits between Fnatic and G2. And I think those matches have been exciting. I think the rematch we saw between Fly and EG was also exciting. So, you know, the summer playoff format is slightly different than spring for us. We go from 6 teams to 8 teams. So it's a slightly bigger format since we're qualifying all 3 teams to Worlds out of the format. So, you know, I think if anything, we've doubled down on the losers bracket on the potential repeat matchups, but we think that they're going to be exciting for us in summer and make sure that we send our 3 best teams to compete for us in Worlds.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we'll move on to Dustin.
Hey there, Dustin Steiner with Esports Talk. Could you talk a little bit about your kind of thoughts on if LCS will return to the studio at all? In wake of coronavirus kind of restrictions being lifted a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of things we take into consideration when we look at that. First and foremost is the safety of our fans, our pro players, our teams, and the rioters who work on the broadcast every week. During the week when there's no shows going on, half the building where we house the LCS arena is the same place where the LCS team is working. So we want to be really mindful of making sure that we're not bringing a lot of people into a space that we use or would be using if we were back in the office, but would be using as an office. And at the same time, we want to be respectful of teams and pro players and fans to make sure that we're there all week. We're not tracking in more germs. So we're going to continue to follow local LA, county, state of California, and federal guidance, as well as Riot's own internal policies on when it's safe to return to the arena. We have a plan that's mapped out, but there's no dates alongside it. Obviously, we're all watching COVID-19 and how it's going to continue to develop over the next couple of weeks and months. I think if I had to make a guess, I think we're going to wind up playing a large portion, if not all, of the season remotely. I think my personal hope is to be able to get our teams back into the arena for playoffs and/or finals. I'm not so sure that the state of California is going to be ready at any point during this for us to have fans in the arena, but we'll continue to monitor all those things. We'll look for best practices. Obviously, we want things back to normal as quickly as we can get them there, but we're not willing to risk anybody's safety in order to do that.
All right, thank you, Chris.
And any other questions? Got one from Travis. Just a follow-up.
Yes, hi. I was just curious how confident you are right now that Worlds will happen this year.
That's a good question. Thank you, Travis. I think that Worlds. So in full transparency, Worlds is planned by another team at Riot. I don't sit on that team, and I don't work with them. So this is just one man's opinion here. I'm confident that we'll see Worlds. I'm not sure if it will be the show that was planned or something different. I think we're still waiting to hear, kind of what things look like and what the ultimate outcome of that is. But I'm certainly hopeful. We've got some great teams this year, and we would love to see them play on an international stage. But like I said, I think safety at the end of the day has to be everyone's focus, and I think for our global team it is. So I hate to punt the question, but I don't have a great answer for you.
That's okay.
By the way, I hope everyone caught the LCS summer split preview video that came out this morning. The great animated piece, tons of Easter eggs and LCS historical memes. If you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to. It is fantastic. Not that I'm biased.
All right, let's move on to Mike, who hasn't asked a question yet. Go ahead, Mike.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
So you mentioned earlier, I'm Mike Campany, by the way, with ESTNN. You mentioned about improving the viewer experience in this coming split. Could you speak more on how you plan on doing that, and maybe more what specifically your plans are for that?
So it was an announcement for an announcement. So we'll have more details for you in the coming days as we lead into the beginning of the season. But I don't want to front run our own PR pieces.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go on to Callie. Go ahead, Callie.
Hi again. So obviously it's a crazy time in the United States right now, given both the ongoing pandemic and the protests throughout the country. Obviously, the LCS has an opportunity both to have a wonderful platform as well as provide a lot of entertainment at a time when people need it. Chris, I was just wondering if I could get your thoughts about the state of where things are and how the LCS fits into people's lives right now.
Yeah, for sure. I think you put it pretty succinctly, right? We do see ourselves as a great platform. We do see ourselves as an entertainment product, and we are keeping an eye on the state of the world to make sure that we're speaking at the appropriate times and we're being quiet when it's important to be quiet. We had an episode of the dive go out on Friday that opened with the statement from the LCS that we support Black Lives Matter, and our casters jumped in. Mark Z, Azale, and Kobe jumped in for the first few minutes to provide some commentary on behalf of themselves and the LCS. I think that coupled with the statements that Riot Games has made publicly, including the um, announcement that they're going to be matching all employee contributions up to $1,000, that through the Riot Social Impact Fund, the company is going to be donating $1 million towards accelerating progress with contributions to the Innocence Project and the ACLU. And then the announcement that through our corporate development team, the company is going to dedicate $10 million towards investment and startup programs developed by those that are underrepresented in the games community. In addition to that, Riot has announced contributions to university scholarships and educational programs. So, yeah, I think speaking on behalf of the LCS team, we are really proud at the stance that Riot has taken, and we're happy to continue to echo and then further those efforts as best we can as things move on. We want to make sure that fans who are quarantined with COVID, fans that are sitting at home who are looking for that kind of jolt of entertainment can still find it with us. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we are leveraging our platform as best we can to amplify voices that should be amplified.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we'll have Azento. You're unmuted.
So I know a lot of people like to draw parallels of the LEC and the LCS, and currently we're seeing a lot of content being pumped out from the LEC, and it seems to be mismatched by the actual LCS. So, is there any plans to ramp up, content, auxiliary content from the LCS team?
So I know the community tends to compare the two leagues. I don't think so much that we tend to do that internally. We have a great working partnership with the LEC. I think when you have to kind of define content a little bit, right? If you're talking about the great videos that they put out, like I think they put one out this morning. They had the music video at the start of Spring Split. Those are super catchy, and they're great. I think when you look at ancillary content from things like this or that and the dive, the freak show, we're putting out the queue with Dash. We're putting out a bunch of content that just kind of hits a different note than the LEC's content. I think both are great, and depending on what you're looking for as a fan, I think there's a lot of opportunities to be served by either one of them. I think Travis asked earlier about Avali's move from being on doing interviews on broadcast to producing content. I think that's one of the ways you'll see us start to address this perceived content gap. With talented content creators like Avali, I think you'll continue to see more diverse content coming out from the LCS over the next couple of months. But honestly, we don't look at it as a foot race or an arms race with the LEC. We think the stuff that they're doing is great, but we're really proud of what we're putting out as well.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Got one more from Kelly. Go ahead.
Hi. Yep. So my last thing that I want to get out was obviously something that the LCS has done very well over the last few years is work with various host cities. I had the good fortune of my hometown being selected last summer. I'm just curious what it's been like working with the host cities during the craziness that is COVID-19. Do you have plans with your host cities that would have been for this year to be done next year instead? And how's that all going forward?
Yeah, I think the host cities that we were supposed to be in for 2020 have been great. You know, we're obviously not the only event that would have been coming to town that had to be canceled. And when, you know, the NBA and the NHL and Major League Baseball and the NFL are canceling and postponing matches and games, and you've got every major concert artist on the planet canceling or moving their tours, you know, it's hard to be in a position as a host city or a venue that isn't sympathetic, really, in both directions. So we're looking at our plans for 2021, and certainly keeping in mind the audiences that we had intended to come out and meet this year, and we're not able to do so. I don't know if we're in a position now to say that the plans will be one for one, that everything we are going to do this year, we're going to do next year. But we're certainly looking to be in or around the same markets if we can make that possible. So I know our events team has been heads down, both trying to figure out some cool things they can do around summer finals this year, considering the state of the world we expect to be in, as well as our plans for getting out of the house next year and going out to visit some of our fans across the U.S. and Canada. So, you know, more to come. I don't have a definitive answer for you now, but I can certainly tell you that you know, we don't intend to just not go back to visit those fans.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Got one more from Asento, and then we've only got a few more minutes, so maybe just one more question left after this. You can go ahead, Asento.
So I've recently, well, I guess extensively been looking at older content from the LCS and even the EU LCS in terms of the website itself. And this is particularly difficult for looking for competitive rulings and such, as this history has kind of been erased because of the, I don't know if it's your guys' hosting issues or whatever, but is there going to be any, I guess, takes or moves in order to rectify that problem?
Yeah, we've moved. We've changed the kind of back end content management system more than once in an attempt to find a better web presence for ourselves. And you know, a lot of it hasn't worked well. We're continuing to look at that. The competitive rulings are safe and sound, albeit very difficult to access at this point. But the intention on our end is certainly to rectify that in the near to midterm.
Thanks, Asento. And any other questions? Just room for one more. All right. Guess we'll call that a wrap then. Thanks, Chris. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks everybody for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Thanks all.